Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All Things Middle-earth here with a tier 2 unique item tier list. We did this on stream and it took about 3 hours. This is the video version that's been edited down to as short as I could possibly get it, but it's probably still going to be relatively long compared to like the normal 10-minute video or whatever. So there will be video chapters in the description and the play bar if you want to skip ahead to any of your favorite commanders or ones that you're curious about. Feel free to do so. A few things to remember: this was just done on stream based on the information that I had, what chat was saying, who we had in our streaming studio, which by the way, we had an error and you guys weren't able to hear that. So I'm kind of relaying what I can. So not ideal, but it is what it is. So just kind of going with the information we had and who we had there to represent the items that we were maybe less familiar with, although most of them I think are very, very solid. As always, if you have, different feelings about how an item was ranked, whether it was ranked higher or lower than you think, let us know down below. That stuff's always helpful for future videos or just conversations for those who are wanting to learn more about a commander before they make an investment like an R10 item. At the end of the day, also, what I try and do with these lists is rank lower if I'm unsure. I'd rather rank items a little bit lower. So if people do invest, they're surprised by the outcome, as opposed to me ranking higher or just without a lot of general consensus ranking higher and someone being disappointed, if that makes sense. So those are kind of the two caveat things for this, but a lot of it's very, very solid. And again, the goal is to help people avoid the really, really bad items that are really agreed upon as bad, and to feel safer going for the ones that are really agreed upon as good. The ones in the middle get very debated, which is part of the fun. So let me know down below if you agree or disagree, or which R10 items are your favorite. But let's go ahead and get into the tier list video. Falcon is the first one on the list. Now, if you guys don't know what we do for this tier list specifically, we're ranking their items and how they improve them as a commander. So even if the commander's not that great, if their item makes them a lot better, we're going to rank it like that. But just because they're a good commander doesn't mean they're going to not be in the dustbin if their item is bad. All right? Makes sense? Physio Falcon, best one first. Listen, the beard braids, if nothing else, is Balrog here. Falcon has the Hardy Buckler, which is going to increase the army HP and defense. HP for dwarves, defense for dwarves. And at max refinement, it's going to, all melee units are going to receive 3% less damage. All ranged units are going to have an increase of 3% damage. And the above effects gain 3% for each allied unit type, dwarf unit type present. So 3 types of dwarves. We're increasing these reduced and increased damage stats. Is this best in slot? Is the Hardy Buckler best in slot? Is it an accessory? Because don't people like to run Opportune Strike on Falcon? So would this not be a best first option, or what do you guys think? Because I feel like I've heard of people running like an Opportune Strike Night Star so that your Master Axe throwers get better damage, but maybe I'm wrong on that. So what I'm thinking is B tier is going to be like if it maintains the character, if it's one of the best options, but they don't necessarily get way better with it or worse with it. So if there's like on par other items, that leans me towards a B personally. Again, the stats are good. The big thing is your Master Axe throwers, who you're going to be running a heavy amount of, so he does damage, because being tanky is one thing, you need to do damage too. So the Opportune Strike allows those Master Axe throwers to do a lot of damage, but you can't run both. Unfledged Cash, you'd say A. Ombra, you think it's an A. I feel like A could be generous, to be honest, and maybe it's going to be at the end of the A tier or the top of the B. I don't think it's below, because to me, like if there's a case to make about like it maintaining and I think people liking it, then I'm okay with that. But I do think an Opportune Strike makes the most sense. You want to figure out whatever your commanders need the most, and he needs damage. It's like running a Manipulate Bone Mask on Gandalf the Grey. It's not a bad thing, but does he need more damage reduction? Probably not as much as he needs damage output. So in that conversation for me, A, lots of A votes. All right. A seems very generous to me. So here's what we'll do to start out with. I'll put it in the A tier since you guys all voted A. But as we keep going, if it keeps getting bumped to the back and further back, and we feel like the other items in the A tier are a step higher, we'll bump it down to B tier. If I had to pick myself, I think I'd put it in B tier. I think it's fine. It's not a bad one. It's not making him amazing, but it's solid. Evil side. We're going to start with Kamul. Oof. Kamul, for those of you who don't know, who's already a disappointment by himself, unfortunately for all those Kamul fans. Might and Focus for the commander, free attack for evil men, free HP for evil men, and Kamul, the normal attacks, increase Might and Focus by, what is that, 15? 18 stacks with each attack. I just don't see it for Kamul. Again, we're not ranking how bad the commanders are, so I'll stay away from that. But any builds you would run on Kamul, usually it's like before people have Witch King, they're running Alchemist builds or things like that. I just don't really see an argument that's reasonable to be running Evil Men on him. Yeah, he doesn't. I mean, like second in command increases damage a little bit. It's just not. It's not there. I don't think anybody's going to fight on that one. Anyway, we got Falcon there up in the A tier to start out. We have Kamul right here. I think it's got to be Dustbin, to be honest. Like, there is no reason anybody really should be investing in Kamul at all. There's no reason anyone should be investing in his R10 item at all. It's far and away, I don't think best in slot. I think a purple Cutlass with melee might would very much be better than this, just to boost the troops and what little bit of damage he's going to do. But next up, another potential Balrog tier here. Not really. Frodo and Sam. Frodo and Sam with Sting. We have Commander, Focus, and Speed. I don't think I've ever seen someone with Sting, to be honest. I don't know, maybe an RP if there are people crawling around with it. But HP for Hobbits, Men, and Elves. 6 HP is not a bad amount of HP. First 2 rounds, all allied units, chance to evade all damage when enemy units include orcs. 70% chance to evade all damage when enemy units. It's like Kingly Kin, basically, that Gil has when it includes orcs. So I'm assuming there's a bit more RP viability here. If you were facing an evil faction, there's a good chance they're going to be using orcs. Is it best in slot for them? Starlight, again, I think in RP, if you knew what you were hitting and you were hitting orcs or Archaea trolls, specifically one including orcs, and you had that avoidance in the first couple of rounds, that's not a bad start. First 2 rounds. How does that work, though? I guess if you inflict them with madness, they can just hit themselves. If you're unironically using Frodo and Sam, you might as well unironically whale the unique. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those, like, probably, like, we could rank it legitimately, but at the end of the day, should you be running Frodo and Sam? No. At least in non-roleplay, I'll say I've never seen a legitimate Frodo and Sam. Although I do think in RP there's probably more, whether serious or not. It's not like it's Kamul's where you look at it and it's like, it's just bad. The HP total stats aren't bad. I don't think it's a bad effect, but like Ohm said, it conflicts with Prudence, so that's not ideal in a tree that you would already be going into. Again, could you run something and without certain madness or stun protection and with certain RNG, could it maybe? Would I advise it? No. Where is it? There it is. I'm okay with that. I think there is a difference between Kumul's R10 and Sam and Frodo's. Should they both, like, as commanders, probably be in the dustbin? Yes, but we're ranking their uniques. So there you have it. Next up is going to be the Shadow, who might be the first one we're going to rank decently. Corrupted Hauberk, Might and Focus for the stats, attack for orcs, and attack for trolls. 3 attack for orcs, 30 attack. Troll Wall, let me go here so we can see the max stat. When each round begins, when allied trolls are present, all allied units except trolls, next damage received, negative 30%. I don't love the effect because it seems weird to me that typically when trolls would be present, they'd be taunting. So it's when trolls are present, everyone else receives less damage. Wouldn't it make sense that the trolls receive less damage since they're taking more hits? I don't know. But either way, really, so yeah, so it's just, and obviously, if you guys don't know, that Shadow's the one doing the damage, so it's, you are going for the kind of bulky. What is everyone? So lots of best in slot Balrog. You think it's the first Balrog? Where is it? Balrog. If it's best in slot, and if it really enhances what he's doing, I think that could definitely be Balrog. I mean, if Falcon's A, I think this is definitely Balrog. If we ended up bumping Falcon down, I feel like this could be a very solid A, at least just with like what's on here. But if it's A, then I think Falcon's getting bumped down because I think there's a significant difference in the usefulness of their R10 items. Yeah, we just want to rank what their increase is from not having it to having it. And if the commander gets a Balrog amount better, it would be Balrog tier. Next up is going to be my personal favorite commander in the game that I've never used, Tier 2 Aragorn. With the Even Star, Might and Focus for Aragorn, Army Attack for Men and Elves each round, allied units recover 30% HP when an allied with the highest defense absorb normal attacks directed at the elves. Now, I don't think this one's going to rank very highly. I don't know if a lot of people have used this one, but I feel like it just doesn't go with what he's a damage commander. The main thing people run are going to be his top R0 and R3 for the commander damage, and then Hidden Air for more, initiative and that kind of stuff. There's not really a lot of troop stuff going on here that would lean towards a hybrid build, in my opinion. And also, you don't usually want to run. You want to run very like the tankiest troops you can for commander that do damage. So, is it Dustbin? Is it bad, or is it just not great? It doesn't seem like it makes him better, and there are better options. I think in even looking at purples, you could find options that just do more healing or have more statistical increase. I think that means it's Dust, which it feels weird to have Sting above them. Maybe Sting should be in the Dust too, but I guess technically there's some viability there. So, all right, nobody's disagreeing. Nobody's got a crazy whaled Tier 2 Aragorn. Evil now. Oh, Adune. Remember, she came out, everyone wanted to sim and go to Angmar. How'd that work out for you guys, huh? What do we get here? Might and Focus. I mean, she's already not good, if anybody was watching, just curious. Unit defense melee. If Adune's stats increase, her army gains the following effect in sequence, or as her stats increase. Might reaches 150 army damage dealt +6. Might reaches 300. So it's a boost onto the actual usual normal effects for Might and Focus, which increase damage and reduce damage based on her stats. So it's not. I don't even know, because she doesn't really have she's got the troop stuff in the R5, then everything else is commander stuff split between Might and Focus. So I don't think there's really, is there just one skill that boosts troops in her entire kit with Betrayer? Again, are the stats bad? No, but if she was a true troop buffer where she had a title or two with sub skills that boosted troop damage and made sense to do that, then it's cool, that's a lot of stat increase there. But she's going to be running either a focus build or a might build with, I believe, nope. It's going to be a no for me. It's going to be a pass for me. I'm going to put it in the back of the dustbin just so nobody gets any crazy ideas and tries to run her. I think that's the financially responsible thing to do there. Next up, moving right along, is Gandalf the Grey with the Wizard Smoking Pipe. You get 66 focus, 3 HP, and damage received negative, what is that? 15 when army is comprised of units of 3 different races. I don't think his item's bad, but I don't think anything that is similar to the Purple Pipe is better than investing in the Purple Pipe with how much it really costs. This one's really good in RP. Yeah, true. In RP, you obviously, in non-role play, there's almost no argument for it because you're going to be running Reaper builds or whatever. Oh, true. It doesn't have to be good races. To me, as much as it's not bad, if an item is beat out by a purple, without debate, I feel like that has to be ranked very lowly. Is that too harsh? I feel like you guys think B. So B, again, to me, the B tier is there are other similar options, and it's not far better or worse than the other options. I do, however, think whenever the options are purple, like a Purple Pipe, it's hard for me to want to rank it even like higher than the Dustbin, because nobody should get the impression that, oh, Gandalf's his B tier, I'm going to go for that. Gandalf's really good. I like Gandalf because his item, again, maintains at the very most. And you're dropping the healing on the purple pipe for 15%. I think C makes more sense. I don't think it's like legitimately bad. I just think there are better options, whereas like there are some, to me, the Dustbin ones don't work with the kit, and there's no improvement. And like it, I don't know. To me, it's like if someone ran this, it'd be like, I think this purple would be slightly, but it's not going to be like a landslide. C is like actual like equal to other options, but not, I don't know. Or B, I mean. I feel like, although it just depends on where we're ranking things, I honestly feel like if we're having Gandalf's and C, Falcon seems a little bit high to be 2 tiers higher. So I'd almost want to pull Falcons down like that and say Falcons will be B, because there are other options, and if like it's they're in a similar vein of they could get use and it's not bad, but there are probably better options. The thing with Falcons is his better option is a fully refined gold, which would be a little bit harder to get. Purple pipe, it's very common. So I'm kind of leaning towards, people be upset if I pulled Falcon down to the B tier. Let's, again, once we get it all filled out, if there's like a major difference where something doesn't fit in, you guys should know the drill. We'll move it around. We'll move it around. Next up after Gandalf the Grey is going to be, we'll just go down and do Zegrid next. We will do Zegrid, who has the Dark Trinket, Might and Focus. He has Siege for Evil Men. I don't like that. Primal Terror each round against enemy mounted units. There's a 24% chance of succumbing to madness. 24% chance to succumb to madness, which then is a 50% chance to actually happen. That's at max refinement, not significant. Nor is the mounted meta existent really at all. I don't know if it's, I don't know in RP if there's more mounted commanders being used, but I just feel like mounted's so expensive. People don't run them a lot. I feel like in R10 that gives, it's like Chartreuse item that gives Siege. I think this is probably Dustbin. All right. There it is. Again, I honestly think the Dustbin's going to get very full, which is, again, it's we had the same complaint when we were doing our tier 1 video. These should all be like, I feel like A tier or higher. If they're unique items, they should all be best in slot. They're just not. So I'm going to start a petition to get these reworked. Will it happen? Absolutely not. Next up in sequence is going to be Arwen. Arwen with the Ring of Bara here. Focus and speed, unit speed for elves. Arwen, her recovery effectiveness is plus 30% and focus damage dealt plus 30% when army includes elves and men. Hey, really? Is this like a high respect Arwen thing? Because I feel like for average respect Arwens, you're just troop buffing. I guess, well, you would run this heal, so the heal becomes more effective, and then at higher respects, do you run her focus damage skills as well? Best in slot, top of A. I mean, yeah, 30% on top of very solid healing with like huge damage reduction is not bad. Army includes men and elves. Run half elf and 2 elves and the men type. I wonder what those heal numbers are like. Probably crazy. Seen a lot of A tiers. You guys think A tier? I'm down to get. I don't think there's anything in the A tier yet, which again makes sense. Like to me, if that's A tier, I think it makes sense that Falcon's down in the B tier. I don't think those are on the same level. If this is for sure best in slot for her, it's an A tier item. That's fine, and I think that makes even more sense for Falcon. So I've seen her heal reach near Kieran levels of heals. Dang. Okay. I'd say B. Purple Pipe seems like a side grade. I'd say Falcon is better than hers personally. I don't think so. With Falcon, the thing we talked about is what he really needs is more damage, not more damage mitigation or defense or whatever it is. So for him, the reason his isn't ranked higher is because you need something like Opportune Strike or even just something to increase range damage. Like Vizzy was saying, he even just used the Wizard's Fireworks just to get more damage out. So that's why that's ranked there, because I don't think it's best in slot. It can be used. I guess the question is, you know, okay, what is the difference between a purple pipe and the ring? Tom, also depends on what you use her for. If you only use her for starting in PvE, healing is key. In PvP, I would prefer a little bit more damage. It's not a bad point. It's not a bad point. I feel like there's no doubt that it's a solid item. And the 30% increased recovery effectiveness is very, very good. The argument for it being used in PvP, from what I'm understanding, is that you're just going to heal so much, like a Radagast level of healing, that you're just like not able to be taken out. The kind of counter to that is, does she do enough damage for that to even matter? Similar to like a Falcon, which we did rank in the B tier and say he needs more damage, or he needs Opportune Strike to do more damage, so that's why it's not. I don't feel like she's that far off from that. So then it kind of gets to comparing, just if we're gonna rank both of them and these are kind of in line with what they already do, is 30% recovery effectiveness better, or what does it end up being, 12% increased damage and 12% damage reduction? I think it's going to be above Falcons for me. I think it's there. I guess there is some question. It seems like some people are interested in B. If it's B, obviously I think it's above Falcon still, and I think they're similar enough that they could both be there. I don't think Falcons is like way worse to be down here in C compared to these ones. So is hers better enough to go there or in B tier? That's a question. All right, let's put it in high B for now. And if you guys know, when we do tier lists, I'd rather rank lower than they actually are, and then when people use them, they're happily surprised by them or just happy with them, than rank high and have someone be disappointed. I'd rather, you not spend your money and be disappointed because it's bad than, if that makes sense. So I'll rank low if we're not sure. I'm okay with that. And again, if we get a bunch of other ones in B tier, we need to bump her up, we can. All right, let's do Glasha next. Focus and speed. Speed for Urukai. Glasha's poison damage dealt plus 10, what is that? 6% after an allied unit deals poison damage. Stacks up to 10 times until the end of combat. Because isn't this the one that like would never actually take effect because you're not ever running orcs with her? Because you run Urukai and there are no Urukai that deal poison damage, you wouldn't run Arbalest. Like, let's build this whole kit and then pick 2% of her kit to build the unique off of. So it makes a lot of sense. Is basically what happened with Glasha. Fell Beast, yeah, Fell Beast do poison. They do poison on theirs. So you would need to run Arbalest and Fell Beast. In theory, you would need to run Arbalest and Fell Beast to trigger so Glasha's poison damage dealt plus 6% after an allied unit deals poison damage, stacks up to 10 times, and lasts till the end of combat. So it's 60%. I do think if you can do it multiple in one round, that would make a difference, because if you get it by the end of round 6 or whatever, like I feel like that doesn't really matter. And you said there's one poison skill she has. So Plague, yeah. And she increases her own poison damage. So be a weird build, I feel like, to run basically the R3 with increased troop damage. You'd run Arbalest or Fell Beast, which again, maybe you could run a small stack of them if it's only one proc per round. If you could do Arbalest and Fell Beast and that made it viable sooner, I think that'd be interesting. But then, like, who do you run with Arbalest and Fell Beast to make that work? I feel like that'd be such a weird lineup. Yeah, I don't see it being an option for her, really. Like, again, every single item has a build. Like, is there an option for tier 2 Aragorn to run his item? Sure. The reason it's in Dustbin is because it doesn't really go in line with what he's built to do as a commander. And so if you invest in that item, you'd be like doing a worse build for him. And it's not like doing that other build with this item makes him better than he would be otherwise. Same thing for Glasha. I think she's probably worse. So it's just like, yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Next one up is going to be Eladin with the Nocturne. Might focus in speed for the commander. The target of each normal attack suffers one of the following effects: negative 30% or negative 30 defense, not percent, 30 defense, attack -6, or receive physical damage. That's weird. It's tough because if the commanders are bad, and I mean, it's basically a very quick scale for Dustbin. Is the commander bad? Yes. Does the item make them not bad? No. Then they're in the Dustbin. Because if the commander's already bad, you don't want to invest in them unless there's a significant increase. And I don't think he's good. I don't think this is good. So it's kind of unique. It's interesting, but it's like, the RNG of when that would potentially be effective compared to anything else you would run to have a viable build with him. It's just not there. Well, because there are a few commanders like that who have that abilities on normal attacks or things proc on normal attacks. And it'd be nice if you could have Frenzy, but they're always weapons. They're always weapons, unfortunately. So here it is, the Nocturne. We're going to put it in the Dustbin, which is almost full. Big shock. Now we'll do alerts. Now we'll do Lurtz with the bladed bow. Might is going to give you 45 attack for Uruk-hai, HP for Uruk-hai, and Lurtz has a 35% chance, or maxed out a still 35% chance to activate a level 1 through 6 Uruk-hai Firstborn after each normal attack. So every time he launches a normal attack, he's going to have a 33% chance to do a level 6. So deals 72% physical damage 3 times each separate attack, choosing a different target and causing slightly more damage. So the question is compared to like the Axe of Khazad-dûm with Cleave or something like that. I feel like the damage isn't going to be comparable with how inconsistent this is. Because when you use Uruk-hai, I guess do people just, does he get any hybrid viability at all? Thinks that he's also a weapon because like he's got retaliate potential as well with Uruk-hai Captain. But because the build, obviously, like the classic, season 1, 2 is like Lurtz with Mumakil. And then I've just seen people trying to run the tankiest or most HP things they can to get the most out of Lurtz. Seems like the units aren't too much a part of it. So it's not, C is like, it's not counterintuitive from his kit, but there are better options. D is where it would be like, I don't know what Dustman would be for him, but yeah, it's not something. Here's a R24 Lurtz, my goodness. Also, I mean, if you look through and you see, you can see, here's one, someone's running it. R25, not running it. R20, not running it. Not running it. Not running it. Probably not that popular, but I don't think it is Dustbin because it does go along with what his kit does. I think it's below Gandalf's for sure. I think it's above Sting, or do you think it's the bottom of the C tier? Or maybe it doesn't matter. Again, hopefully there's a clear distinction between the ones in the Dustbin where it's like, yeah, these ones are very clearly bad. These ones aren't good, and there are better options, but they do like go in line sort of with what the commander's trying to do. I think I like that better, like that. Okay, the next good commander I believe is going to be Elro here, who's actually is a little bit more viable. Elro here's already a better commander. Attack for elves, defense for men, HP for dwarves. Different races gain the following effects in sequence. Elves get increased damage, men have reduced damage, and dwarves gain madness immunity. Pretty sure people just run full elven builds with half elven with him. Yeah, you run basically the full damage build on him. The only thing that I've seen people, potentially do here is Palantir, Pursuit, or can't use Wizard's Fireworks. So I think Palantir with Pursuit would be better in certain situations. I guess the Dragon Tooth Necklace probably. So best in slot outside of the probably most limited and rare item in the game, the Dragon Tooth Necklace. I think that's pretty solid. I know we had a few people run him, or at least one, and it was like a very pleasant surprise. I was like, Elro here is getting some decent reports. So we think it goes along with what his kit's doing, more damage. The only other option maybe is a end of season reward that you have to win to get. A. You guys think A? Next up is Ugluk. With Ugluk's Cleaver. Might and Speed. Attack for Uruk-hai. HP for Uruk-hai. Against enemy target. Deals 60% to 180% physical damage after hitting with each normal attack. Called Dual Strike. Is there anything... I never ever in my life seen an Ugluk being run seriously. He does seem to have more increased stuff for Uruk-hai, so statistically with the attack, it's probably not bad, but I would say it would probably be better just to go for like a Cutlass with melee might and just to run some kind of an Uruk-hai build. I don't know if he ends up just running like Alchemists and they, if you don't hit burn protection, he does okay. Like White Hand while attacking. That's physical damage though. He's pretty bad. Because he's got the Pursuer tree, but nothing else to really complement that. He has Brawler, which is damage against melee units, but you got to get into Outlaw to get that, which I'm not a huge fan of the increased damage received for more damage output, especially with something like Urkai. I don't think they can sustain that. Commander might increase. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. It goes along with, again, a very small part of what his kit does. He is a Dustbin, and I think if you had his item, he would be Dustbin. So, split the difference. That's a Dustbin ranking there. After Elro here is everyone's favorite Mirkwood Prince. Drumroll, please. We got the Bow of the Galadrim on Legolas. Might. 6 army attack for elves, which is a decent attack stat, although it's not really. Anyway. And the normal attacks have a 35% chance of activating a level 6 Greenleaf. Same thing as Lurtz here. You think it's A? Because he at least, what does Lurtz do in terms of, it's 1 attack, right? We'll just mean like Lurtz does 3 attack for Urkai, and Legolas is 6. But we're in that realm statistically already in a better spot. Against enemy with the lowest defense, deal. So what, it's a level 6 Greenleaf, we said? 192% physical damage against the unit with the lowest defense. Which I will say that thing, you know, the fact that it's the lowest defense unit makes it a little bit nicer too. You think it's A though? I feel like A would lean towards it being best in slot for him. So this would lend to like a keeper hybrid build where this is doing a little bit of both, right? And you run some dwarves with that, some guardians with keepers, basically protect them. Let me find a good Legolas here to look at. Here it is, basically. Guardians, keepers, high respect Legolas doing damage. The dwarves, 1 point here, protects the elves, and allied melee units increase damage dealt. The keepers, again, are solid. They get their damage increased. Where's Sonic? Where's Gotti Dot? We're talking about the elves. Gotti has this option. It's been running a hybrid Legolas for a long time. Okay, what do you think? A tier below the Imladris Quiver for Elro here, or above? I don't have an issue with that. Keeper build, maybe even A. Alex, you think C. You think B. Flay Axe is better than that. I think it depends. So what we're talking about, the build that we're running here, his most viable build is going to be the hybrid build where you get benefit from not only the stats but the effect. Yeah, if you have your Legolas at R5 and you're just running a R1 and 3 like damage build, yeah, it's a cool item, but I think his build limitations make it kind of useless. It's been really interesting. If its special skill would also decrease the damage of the target. It's a good point. It's a good point. And again, I'm not. Let's pull it back up here. I'm not opposed to moving things down if they are so situational that really limits their viability. If we think there's enough of that, I think we're ranking its best case use, and that means when you have keepers, when you're running this build, I think it's going to be best. If you guys would feel better, I'm fine putting it in B because it's a bit more situational. The argument here is just that when used as we're talking through, it is, I think, about in that A caliber level where it does give a lot of improvement. It's a fair point, and Gotti is someone who's used it a lot to say, you know what, it's so situational that let's put it in the B. It kind of maintains. If you want to run Legolas situationally or always go for keepers or whatever, then great. I'm okay with that. So here's Grishnak. Might, focus, and speed, army attack for orcs, 3. And then this is for reapers specifically. They increase damage by 12%, and a random melee unit takes normal attack damage on Reaper's behalf. No effect if no allied units remain. So pretty good. Means your Reapers never get targeted. I think the issue is I don't feel like there's a whole lot. Reapers just carry this thing, I think. So there's not a crazy amount. He's got reduced savior, reduced damage, prudence. It's a tough thing because if it's like guaranteed best in slot makes him viable, makes the Reapers very good on him. I mean, I feel like that could be higher than B. If these other items in B are kind of like their best in slot considerations, there's certain builds, yada, yada, yada. I could see that being A. The difficulty is that doesn't mean that he would necessarily be in the A tier. I think it makes him viable instead of him being Dustbin. Alex, you think high B? You think it's B as well? I'm okay. I feel better about B. I know we've had some people like really hyped about this item and they'd probably be like, Balrog. But it's an A unique if you don't take him into account, which again, we're looking at the items, but it's like how the items increase him as a commander. So if it's best in slot, that doesn't necessarily mean it's A or Balrog right away. But I think B is the top of B is pretty reasonable. If it's best in slot, something like Reapers are always available for him to use. It's limited because you run this and like his kit doesn't have a whole lot of other stuff to go with it. So it's not, to me, it's not like above, or wouldn't be like, even if it's best in slot, he has a ceiling. Even though we're ranking uniques, I think bad commanders still have to have some kind of a ceiling, because I don't want to rank a horrible commander very high and have someone invest when they shouldn't. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Next up is Gimli. So 66 might, army attack for dwarves, and Gimli gains increased damage as his might increases. So 12% plus 12% more, and then pursuit. It's pretty freaking good. Balrog, Balrog, Balrog. Morgoth, Balrog tier. All right. I don't think there's any debate there. Nobody's saying, again, you think it's better than Undyings or below Undyings? Or Shadows, yeah. Better. It's an extremely good R10 item. The only comparable option we're talking about would be a Frenzy Giant Hammer with Hunt Down. Anybody that has Hunt Down that uses it, Frenzy is always going to be best case to get the damage going more and faster, whatever. So that's the only other gold consideration. But the increased damage, the pursuit, I think make it hang with that pretty closely. And again, the cost of refining a tier 2 item compared to fully refining a gold item, it is significantly different, and it's totally RNG dependent. So no issues there. Next up, good side commanders. We are on Lotr. I think his is very interesting. It's one of those that like I would love to mess with some more. For those that don't know, you get attack for mounted units and HP for it's meant to be used specifically with the Fallen. He also has, because I believe people run like half Fallen, half Reaper builds basically. You run the Fallen and Reapers with him, and it basically gives the Fallen the protect all allies in the first 4 rounds ability. It reduces the damage they take. They get increased damage. They get increased HP. It works because they, as they take damage, they obviously ramp up a little bit more. Reapers are doing their thing, yada, yada, yada. So it's a very interesting, if you're in Angmar, that he boosts the Fallen, he boosts the Reapers. Be restricted to Angmar. It's not good. The stats are not good for mounted units. I'll say too, as a point, if you're playing Season 6 onward with the conversion ability, you're not technically restricted to Angmar if you're going for a Fallen build, just as a side note. It's one of those that like look really interesting, so it looks better than it is. You guys think low B? Yeah, it's definitely there's no doubt about it. It's a restrictive item. So again, should we have done if we were doing a really proper tier list? Maybe I'm just rusty on tier lists. We probably have different categories we're ranking. And so we'd rank like accessibility, and the accessibility rank would be low if it's like a faction specific thing. And we'd rank like free to play friendliness. Is it something that's viable at low refinement, high refinement? Like, do you need a crazy high respect, whatever? And we'd rank all these things, and then we'd crank out some somewhat, accurate thing. We're just full sending it here. You guys think below Falcon? What do you think about that? Bottom of B tier. If you think B was generous, maybe bottom of B. I think bottom of B tier is fine. I think it's got, I mean, could it even be C? Do you think it, with what you see in the C tier right now with Lurtz, with Gandalf, with you think it goes C? Yeah, because his right, he has that ability. Or am I tracking right? So okay, so if there are other melee types present, so I think that's a fair point. I like that, Woofles. The unique's not adding the protection effect. I mean, it's making sure it's them, but the Reapers are already not going to get targeted just with his skill. So the difference you get here, you get it specifically to be Fallen, which like works with what they do and like ramping their damage up. It's not a bad thing, but it reduces the damage a bit and makes it specifically them. It's not like you couldn't run Reapers with 2 other melee units and still have your Reapers doing a lot of the work and getting it done. So I think, for that reason, I think it's C. I think it's no higher than C. Continuing on, that was Lotr. So now we are on Balin. I think it's gotta be Dustbin. I think the only viable build for Balin is going to be Retaliate build. Best case with the I don't know what all he can run, but the Maddock of the Iron Hills. And without it, I don't think Dwalin is competitive at all. Ballin and Dwarves against Orcs and Dragons. So Cold Drakes. I mean, the Orc part, again, RP, could you see a little bit more viability and run his damage build? Yes. But I don't think it's anywhere near getting rid of the Dustbin. So yeah, good guy Ballin. Always looking out for others. Here it is. Dustbin after Lathar is, let's do Pete Jackson next. Let's do Azrukor, who might focus on speed, unit defense for evil men against enemy army, burn damage received plus 60% when your army includes Corsairs. Is there any viability for this with Azrukor? I feel like the only like viable build I've seen has to do with a ranged follow-up build with units that don't have a significant damage range. That's what I've seen and heard. I don't really know. Burn damage 60. I don't like Corsairs really either. I guess the question is, could you run Corsairs in a small amount to trigger this effect and then something else? But I don't like, what else do you run? Yeah, so you like run Alchemist and Corsairs, and do you taunt with like a troll or something maybe? And then, or Great Beast. So you wouldn't do Raider because that's for ranged, unless you put 14 points in here to get fuel oil. That's like would just be such a interesting build. You wouldn't be doing the R5. So you'd have like, yeah, it's just like you have a heal for one unit in defense. If you're running a tanky unit like Great Beasts, I doubt the 35 defense is going to be a significant amount for them. I don't know their defense off the top of my head though, so maybe their defense is low and that would make, but I don't think so. And nothing else is cohesive. Like if fuel oil was easily accessible, so like with his R10, you have against enemy more burn damage. You have burn damage from the R10. You have the Alchemist who have crazy burn damage. You know, Treason, that adds a little bit of spice to it. I don't know if this thing can be rightly ranked outside of the Dustbin, to be honest. Is there a build? Has someone done it? Yes. Does that mean anybody should run it? Is he good with it? No. As much as it pains me, probably more than any other one I put in there so far, we're going to put Pete Jackson in the Dustbin. Very, very sadly. Moving on, we have Celeborn, who I like. I think he's solid. You got 30 focus on that thing, right? It's times 3 on stats. So 30 focus, 3 HP, 30 defense, the recovery, extra defense. My understanding is the reason people run this is to get more focus on him for something like the Wise to reach 350 without like crazy point investment, so you can do the rest of his tree. And I've seen some pretty weld ones that have, but then again, I've also seen some pretty weld ones that just run the Elven White Knife. Like if you were really running it, like this is what you would look at, and you'd run gear that does add focus, like the Hunter's Guide, the Mithril Coat. This one's got the Fine Smoking Pipe that gets him over 350, which is what you need without the unique, and then you still get something like Might of Elves on a White Knife, which is really good. Like, I mean, there's no doubt this thing probably hits like a truck. Oh yeah, because that does give you, it's the initiative you're trying to get now. So yeah, Blitz, Dragon Tooth Necklace in a few seasons would replace the need for that. Then you could really go all in on gear that is really specifically for, I don't know what you like. Would you like a high elf hauberk or something else? I think Mithril Coat's a good item for almost anybody. So yeah, is there viability? Yes. Do I see people with them? Yes. On the high end, is it what you'd really go for? I think it's hard to beat the White Knife as an Elven buffing commander. Do I have an R1 kill on this one, which is more evil? Yeah. My other one, I want to say he's like in like close to 10, because I was flirting with the idea on the alt of getting his for I don't know what reason. But what do we think? Is that in that B tier realm with those other ones where it's like it's an option, maybe not best, can make his build work with the initiative? It's only best in slot at the very top of gold gear, but it's better for mid respect. Is there anything other than the White Knife that would be better on him? We're talking about, I know you guys can't hear, we're talking about how the White Knife, even without refinement, statistically with the 6 army attack, is what really makes that good. Obviously the best effect, the refinement, makes it even better. Is there anything not gold or other gold ones that get it up there? Because I feel like that would be my potential argument for B, even if it was at the back of the B tier. just because a lot of these ones are kind of that, like, there's probably other like gold items that make it, you know, they're just as viable or could be argued. So that in its use compared to the C tier is like where I'm at of like, is a Mirkwood bow with ranged might or whatever still better in that case with the 9% and the 3 attack? I don't know. I think B, because to me B is kind of that. There's a comparable gold. That's about it. C is where you start to get purples in the equation and you start looking at the cost of a gold versus a purple, the effects being limited or situational, whatever. I would run Kelborn Unique over purples, but it's not like it makes a huge difference versus a purple bow. I think if it's still above it and the only thing better would be like a white knife, I think we can set that at the back of the B tier. I think that's fair. Again, could we split hairs on some of these? Probably, but we're just gonna put it there in the B tier, which honestly the B tier is keeping the dustbin a little. There's one extra in the dustbin you guys can't see. We got behind me over here, we got the what's his face, Degrid. That's Celeborn. Next up on the evil side is going to be Quarren. For Quarren here, now I will say we'll probably just rank him thinking through RP, because in non-roleplay I think Quarren is almost not viable. Like, this is definitely someone who needs to be in RP, so keep that in mind. Might focus on speed for the commander. Pouring Rain. All enemy units damage dealt negative 3%. Sorry, all enemy units negative 18% damage dealt, and an additional 6% for each allied dwarf, men, or elf type present. So, assuming they have 3 troop types and they fall into those categories, you're going to be at what, negative 36% damage dealt. I think that's somewhat significant. So, Ohm was just saying that they've got a couple on their team. I mean, we're talking whale, R25 stuff, but in roleplay being very, very good. So that's one caveat for this. Well, I will say, if you are non-roleplay, he's not as viable in non-roleplay. Is there still use? Yes, but you have to be really careful. It really, really makes him super situational. Roleplay, if you're fighting a certain faction, you know what type of troops you're going to run into. So I'm okay with with an A ranking if we've got some thoughts for that. But I think it has to be, we're putting an asterisk by it that says this is just roleplay. Let's do that. Next one up is Theoden. Oh, I know you ran Theoden's for a hot minute. It's not like his kit doesn't have a lot of attack with his R5-2, to be fair, right? So what I'm saying, and by the way, Ohm is someone who's run a very, I don't know how refined you had it, but so you got rid of it, right? Ohm did run this for a while, so he's sharing his thoughts on it. Basically, it's good, probably close with the Cutlass in terms of like talking about the attack versus like the HP stats and all that. Hammer, you're thinking is better. Spear, not better though, because the spear doesn't have increased attack. It's just speed, right? Statistically looking at those. So where would you rank it? To me, it seems, I don't know if it's not high enough. To me, it's like, seems like maybe it could be a B tier if there are like considerations in purple and gold. If a Cutlass is like, we could, if that's like in the argument, that's been a lot of the B's so far. A is like, there maybe is other gold consideration. That's kind of it. Which one is it? Does his is a full wrap here, so. Do you think it's the best B tier? And you're getting 6 HP for your mounted units, and you're getting with the row. I don't like, if it was like just like for everything, I think it might be different too, but you're really restricted to like the Rohan type of mounted units. So I don't like that part personally. Again, maybe in RP it's not as big of an issue because there aren't as many options. Cutlass and hammer are best weapons in my opinion. Again, I don't think it's a bad option at all. It's probably one of those where you be a big Theoden user to go for it when a Cutlass is kind of in the conversation. But I think the 6 HP is nice for them because he does have a lot of damage in his kit. So to me, the HP does make sense. But again, I think B is a pretty safe, reasonable spot for it. Moving on, before we give Ohm an aneurysm here, we're going to move on off of Theoden. The next one is the Mouth of Sauron with the faceless mask. If the chance was higher, maybe. So what are the other options? Like, are there any other like purple considerations that are like, because obviously Tranquility is best. I think people run the Bone Mask otherwise with Hysteria. Get some more madness out with Enfeeble. So C might be kind of reasonable, but if the chance was higher, if this was a guaranteed chance, or like even we're just over half. So I think when this works, if you stun yourself and the enemy commander, you help shut down those like hard counters, and you basically just have all your, but then again, you can't run Tranquility then. So to be fair, it does help counter damage commanders. So maybe it deserves to be not in the dust. Yeah, I'm thinking C. I'm thinking, is it bad? No, I don't think it's bad. Is the Tranquility a really good option? Yes. Is a Bone Mask still solid because of how situational it is? Yeah. So I think it's probably in the C tier. Don't think it's great, but is it better than these other items in the dustbin that just are completely different from what the commander's trying to do? Mouth of Shrawn is shutting down damage. This shuts down commander damage. So in terms of that like anti-commander type stuff, I think it goes with that a little bit, but it's not great. It's not consistent. You know what I mean? Continuing right along. Next one, Imrahil with the Dol Amroth Bulwark. Focus, defense for men, and men units. And I quote, Ohm just says, if you've invested in Imrahil, quit the game. So they have a chance to remove a random debuff when defending. Oh, that's rough. Again, part of his kit looks interesting because you have like the Aegis with the mounted and you get blah, blah, blah. It's just not good. Mounted's not good. Doesn't boost them enough. The random when defending. Imra full whale would be a funny thing to park around a 300 and see how long he lasts. I mean, again, like, could someone get him going one season, throw other gold gear on him just for fun? Yes, but I think even so, it'd be probably underwhelming. There's just not enough going out. Like mounted combat, like a little bit of increased damage, men damage, and that's kind of it. So yeah, I think we're gonna go dustbin for poor Imrahil. We have Gothmog with the Wrath. For those of you who don't know, it's allied orcs and trolls. The big thing we care about is allied orcs and trolls. They have increased damage, 18% increased damage when battling on a structure land. So it's very situational, but Gothmog starts to get into this really interesting place when you play him defensively. So if you park him on a structure as an example, where he has Phalanx to reduce physical damage, you have Fortified to reduce physical damage when defending, and you start to increase damage with things like Reapers, Trolls. Orcish Warlord reduces damage, second in command, discipline. I mean, where would you guys rank this? C? Seems a little bit better than C. So, by the way, Ohm's telling me, for those of you guys who don't know, building a fort counts as structured land. So technically, any tile other than a 200, although I guess you could build a fortress if you really wanted to do that, if you were in a position to do so. But technically, any tile could become a structured land if you were leaning into this build. Go ahead. What else are we gonna say on him? Kind of recapping. I know. By the way, if you guys are just joining in, we're having a technical issue. I don't know why Discord's not coming through. It shows that it is on mine, which is really annoying. He already can't use the gigantic hammer, so your options are Black Mace, a gold item, Cutlass, which kind of I think is close to competing, which to me I think lends it to being around the B tier. Especially if you can work your way around with the fort thing if you wanted to. I think who commented it? I would say I feel like it seems like it's a step above the other ones in C tier as well. Again, where they rank in the tier is probably splitting hairs in any of these, to be honest. But because you get 3 army attack with the Cutlass, and you don't get army attack for this, right? And then 9% damage for melee units versus 18. So I don't know what the math equates to based on this if you were using the same troop counts. Basically, you get 18% here as opposed to 9, but you don't get any army attack. And there aren't restrictions with the structured land. Usually want to run Cutlass, Reckoning, Orc Mace with Goth. No, there's no doubt there's better options or considerations. Cutlass Full Refines, 23.4 more damage, 23.4% more damage for your Reapers. This item gives you lower and is golden. So is C. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it being C. It's not quite as bad as the Dustbin ones, but it's probably, if they are competed with a purple, you're in trouble. Next up is Eomer's Unique. I think it's probably best in slot for him, right? Where does that rank though? Does it get him to the Balrog, or is he still kind of A tier with it? Balrog or A? Balrog for sure. Eomer's Balrog, it makes him. I like it. I like it. My only thing is that first of all, mounted is very expensive. So that like makes any, like that enters my mind. He does counter Sunin, but I really think it's like a soft counter, to be honest. I've seen lots of reports, Sunin versus Eomer, and typically if you're looking at kind of standard built for both, although I mean, standard build doesn't really include the R10, but typically they just wipe each other, even with you prioritizing them. Exactly. Not to mention they're also running halberdiers, so once you get to the arbalists and reduce the damage, you're still not like loving that. So doesn't the reach of the rim mark have an effect that lets him ignore a bunch of armor? Battered, but I don't think people really consider using that. Sharp point. Allied commander physical damage ignores 30% of target's defense. To me, the reason that people like Éomer and that he's like in the conversation, like with Theoden, for example, is because of his unique and that it allows him to bypass something and get to range, which is good. And otherwise you would really lose to a Sunhead. This allows you to take out the Arbalist, but kind of like what Ohm was saying and what the reality is with Mounted is, even if you take the Arbalist out, you have an even wipe with Sunhead, which is like, cool. Your time to build all those Mounted troops back compared to Sunhead building Arbalist is so significantly different that it's still tough. So I think, I feel like A seems reasonable. You do have attack, 6 attack for mounted units, so it's got good stats for them. Again, he's got some hybrid stuff going, but I've seen a handful and I've not been like blown away by it where it's like, wow, like this guy is just like ridiculous. I mean, compare it to Gimli's Axe and Shadows, what are those called? The shoulder things, or Elrohir and Quarren. Does it seem like, I mean, I guess out of this, I feel like it would fit closer to Balrog if we're looking at what else is there. Not as good as you think it would be. I feel like it's good. I think it's a little overhyped, to be honest, which is why I'm like, okay, I'd be okay with this personally. And it could be just top of A and we leave it there. You gotta remember what we're talking about. You gotta remember too, we are just looking at the item. So as much as we're talking about the commanders and we're really looking at like the item, what it does for him. Gimli's Axe isn't best in slot either. The only other option, we talked about this, the only other option best in slot for Gimli is the gigantic hammer with frenzy. And I think it's not too far off. It's the difference in like we're fully refining a frenzy gigantic hammer versus a very good option, and the unique is that's why it's there, and it's a very solid option. Yeah, which again maybe would make it A if there's if cleave with cleave on the spear for Éomer to deal more damage, if that's comparable. That to me that's A. I don't know. Again, maybe if it's like on the line, we've been ranking lower for everyone else, maybe we go top of A. In this context, RP and RP are both. We're kind of doing both. It's not either one. There have been a few like Quarrens, for example, where we really talked about we talked about that being RP specifically. Like in RP, it doesn't really rank. So there are a few like that we kind of qualified, but for the most part, we're kind of looking at it and trying to state its usefulness. So, which I know is a little bit hard to follow, but we're just ranking them all because the game's a mess. All right. I'm going to put it in the A. We've been ranking things lower if they're on the line. It is for me, so I'm going to go A. Last, but certainly not least, probably the best item in the game. We have the Goblet of the First Steward. Goblet of the First Steward, focus, HP, 6. And then Militia Spearman, the Guard of the Tower, damage received negative 18%. No question. That's the tier list. No, okay, where is it legitimate? You actually like legitimately think it's good? Like, I mean, 18%'s not bad. Is this a specific build that we're talking about that's like with a concentration, or not concentration, determination? So basically the build, by the way, guys, is it's going to be something like Guards the Towers with Shire Protectors. So the Shire Protectors, they don't take, everyone else takes damage for them. So the Guards the Towers are tanking. With the 6 HP, which is a lot, you have the 18% reduced damage. Palantir Scryer reduces damage like crazy, especially for high focus. That's what the build would be. Not like the best build ever, but it was definitely interesting to see. Then there's Swords Bottom Arzio gets reworked. Something useful. It could probably be very viable. They don't do reworks. Sorry. Where would this legitimately rank though? Is this like a Legolas type thing where it's like this like situational build that if you put it together with Shire Protectors, kind of like the Keepers thing? So RP, I'm saying it's best in slot. In RP, there's some potential Opportune Strike things that could look a little bit better. Again, remember, we are ranking the items, not the commanders themselves, although I do think he's probably a little bit, you know, I don't see him, but he's one that probably gets more hate for, like, you look at his case, not actually bad, whereas some are just straight up bad. For me, it's B. Commander's super dust, but item is B. Yeah. So basically the point is a lot of these things we ranked in B have like maybe a gold item that would be better, like when the Opportune Strike was one that we were thinking of, but he's not also run a lot. So this is a lot of just like, maybe this would be interesting. But I think what we have to do, there kind of has to be a ceiling, because at a certain point, if it brings him from dust or like super dust to dust, you know, like the commander, it's still dust. You know what I mean? But if it's like, no, it like makes him viable, he just has to be good with it. He has to be as good as some of these other commanders are with their items, or like what their items increase on them, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a tricky one. I feel weird putting it in B. It seems very generous just with like not seeing him, but maybe there's more in RP. The item, not the commander. I could live putting in B. And that will officially do it for our tier list video of all the tier 2 commander unique items in the game. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Again, like I said in the intro, let me know down below if you have different thoughts on some of these items. I'd love to continue conversations about these, and maybe for the next, because there's always going to be a future tier list or a change, or we figure something else out. So maybe for the next one, we'll have different thoughts on one that didn't rank so highly, or maybe one that ranked higher than it should have. So let me know down below if you've got experience on an item. But that'll do it for this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.